David Granger for Guyana. David Granger for Guyana, for better jobs and security. For David Granger, a partnership for national unity. Granger for Guyana, reducing the cost of living. I feel this is a unity thing. Improving education. David Granger, he is the man. David Granger, he's standing tall. APNU, we welcome all. Come out and vote and make your statement. Granger for president.
So we want national unity. We are brave for a better country. We don't want no disunity. Granger him are the best thing for we. Yes, we want the best for the youth them. We don't want to deceive and use them. Educate, motivate, not pollute them. Granger come recruit them. Let me see you put you one in a year. David Granger, yes, you know we got clear a partnership for national unity. David Granger come to run the country. Granger are the choice for the people. Make you rise up out of the struggle. David Granger got the program done. No, see how we got the plan. Hey! Everybody just fling your hands up. Hands up, yes, time to rise up. Everybody just fling your hands up. David Granger are the man to big up. Just vote David Granger for Guyana. David Granger for Guyana.
A partnership for national unity. It's a unity thing.
We need someone to take us to the start. Lead us to a place nice and warm, yeah. Who's gonna clean up all this mess? 19 years of endless stress.
Granger, take over this government.
You can hear it east, north, south, and west. People calling for the best.
Granger, we want you as president.
Mr. Granger is the man to lead this nation, to bring a better future for this generation, for build better schools, better education, for bring back the reputation. Now say we want a government that is trustworthy, provide employment and maintain security. Whether you're black, Indian, Amerindian, Chinese, a good life for all you Guyanese. We fed up of all the PPP.
Vote APNU. Youth for David Granger is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
But the government is not willing to sit down and talk to us about the projects. So what we have here is a failed Atlantic Hotel project. People up to now don't know who the investors are going to be. And secondly, we have a failed Amila Falls project. The road is not even being completed. We have a failed Shedi Jagan International Airport project. It may not have failed yet, but it's certainly in trouble. We have a failed one laptop for family project. We have a failed fiber optic cable project. We have a failed specialty hospital project. So there's failure all around, and the government must learn by now that we have been given too many blunders. Mr. Ramatai is becoming a serial blunderer. Every project on which he embarks seems to be marked with failure. And it's expensive failure. That is the problem for you, for us, and our children.
Granger will succeed. 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 Granger will succeed.
A pleasant good day. It's Sunday, the 28th day of September in the year 2014. This is your Sunday live edition of Nation Watch Today. My name is Christopher Jones, thanking you for joining us on today's program. On today's program, we want to focus on work in the National Assembly as it relates to the motion of no confidence that will soon reach the floor of the Assembly, the breach of the Constitution of Guyana by the government of the day, and of course, local government elections. In studio with me to share in this discussion is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Chairman of the People's National Congress Reform, Attorney at Law, Mr. Basil Williams, who is also Guyana's Shadow Attorney General. Mr. Williams, welcome to today's program of Nation Watch Today.
Thank you, Chris. Good day, viewers. It's good to be here again.
Yep. Before we get in depth into the topic area that we want to cover today, I would want to, noting we're about to go back into the National Assembly, but I'll invite you with some brief remarks and then we'll get into the topics.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's good to be back here in Ghana. I've been out for several weeks. But I see our campaign is well in hand, and it's being driven, and it's going pretty well throughout the country. And that is our campaign for local government elections.
Yeah.
You know, that is a campaign that is nearly 13 years old. So it began in 2001. And it was really wrapped around the whole question of engendering a new system of local democracy. And provision was made in an entire chapter in our Constitution, Chapter 7 of our Constitution, with articles from 71 to 78b, where the Parliament is enjoined to create a countrywide system of local government, to divide the country into regions, sub-regions, and subdivisions, and within such divisions, establish organs of local democratic power. In the RDC, in every region, therefore, it provided for an RDC, and then it made provisions for subdivisions, like municipalities, NDCs, and if people in the communities wish, village councils and community councils. We haven't, of course, established, coming out of the Joint Task Force, any village councils or community councils. But the overall objective was to empower people in these communities in which they live, to involve as many people in the communities, in the management of their communities and the decision making in their communities. And I would say that it was designed to promote racial harmony and social cohesion at that level in the community. It was intended to rid these community level people living in those communities and the various communities of the rancor and divisiveness which attended national and regional elections. And you know, our national elections have been characterized for years by any person who has eyes to see as being racially divisive. And so those elements were supposed to be removed at the level of the local communities, and so people could work together in harmony. And provision was made to empower them, give them greater autonomy, etc. Even the RDC is included in those provisions of autonomy, you know. And there were to be formulated objective criteria in respect of allocation of resources to these local democratic organs and for them to garner resources. But in the provision with respect to regional democratic councils, there's a specific provision saying that they could raise their own monies. Now, when you look at the constitutional provisions, it suggests clearly that the RDC should also be an autonomous local democratic organ. But how is it operating? The government obviously is operating contrary to the spirit of the Constitution, and they are dominating the region, and they are in charge of the regions. The regions have no autonomy. Everything is centrally directed, what they must do, etc. In fact, the region's budget under the constitutional provisions is provided to be integrated into the national budget, which suggests that the region could develop its own budget.
That's right.
And because of its autonomy, it would execute the provisions in its own budget. But that doesn't happen. And so we have started since 2001, set up Joint Task Force to flesh out these provisions. You know, we met with a lot of difficulties, and we ended up in the Constitution, in Parliament eventually with APNU, with a one-seat majority for the opposition, APNU and AFC together. And we used that one-seat majority to further this process of liberating people in their communities and engendering local democracy. And so the legislation, various legislation that were attending local democracy went into Special Select Committee, came out, and they were unanimously passed in the House by all sides. I mean, the AFC, everyone. So we want to make this point very clear, that it wasn't today or yesterday. We have been arguing, we have been working, we have been calling for the government to honor the constitutional provisions relating to the institution of a government, of local government, in a system of local government in Guyana, which provides for the autonomy of these various councils and the people in the regions in which they live. So it's not today. And then local government elections, we've been asking for that ad nauseum over the years. And so we want viewers to understand that is very important for us, and we have had the support of a lot of stakeholders. We have had the support of the diplomatic community, and we are very convinced that even if you look, this whole system of organization of people in the communities in which they live is in disarray. You know, it's in tatters. And if there's no harmony at the level, that level, there can't be harmony at the national level. So even though we are supporting any no confidence motion that comes up, but it is clear that you have to fix local democracy. If you don't empower people in the communities and give them charge of their communities to make decisions for themselves, no amount of national elections will solve that. And so we are very confident and we are resolute about the need for Guyana and the Guyanese people to be empowered in the communities in which they live, and that local government elections should be held. Of course, if you hold local government elections various as is without the reforms in place, basically you're not going to effect any meaningful change in what is happening right now. You might change new councillors, etc., but they will still go in there and meet Suba or another like Suba appointee. So therefore, the government must operationalize the Local Government Commission Act that was passed in Parliament, and the Local Government Amendment Bill should also be assented to by the President. So these things are very relevant, because if you go and hold elections and the government still retains the power to take over any local democratic organ, like an NDC or municipality, we still would not have made any progress. And so we are very resolute about moving for local government elections and the concomitant empowerment of the people via these those the relevant provisions governing the system that will pass in the Parliament.
All right. Well, so noted, Mr. Williams. Thank you for that.
Now, the question of no confidence motion.
But in fact, before you even go there, I would want to question the effect. Well, noting that the work for the local government elections to have those reforms pushed started sometime back in 2001, some 13 years. And the Partnership for National Unity, of course, in the National Assembly with the AFC constitute a majority, one-seat majority. How effective have the Partnership for National Unity been for the past 3 years, noting that we're now about to go back into the National Assembly?
But it's good that you asked that question, because at the end of the last session, I saw some criticism being heaped upon us that we did nothing for the duration of that period, and persons were saying nothing was done and this should have been done, and the opposition should have brought more legislation and the like. I mean, I don't know if any reasonable minded person looking at the manner in which this Parliament had evolved could actually level such a contradiction, an accusation without it being contradicted. I wish to say that the APNU AFC combination, we have done a lot in a Parliament in a short space of time. Look, for example, the local government legislation that has come out of this that was unanimously passed in the Parliament. The machinations on the part of the President in relation to those bits of legislation is another matter. But that was done. It was never done before. It was never done before. So that was successful. And look, you have, in terms of the public service commissions, we all know that this only certified union to represent workers in the public service is the Ghana Public Service Union. Yet, on the Public Service Commission, they had no representatives that were duly nominated by them to go to the parliamentary committee to be voted upon and nominated to the president, and passed in the House and nominated to the president. Instead, what you had were representatives from unions that had no real base in the public service. And so you had, for example, the president of the GLU being a nominee of the parliament, the parliamentary process to submit names to the president to be a commissioner, and in fact became chairman of the commission. But his party doesn't have any major representation in the public service with respect to public servants. And so what we had to countenance was that the Ghana Public Service Union and could not have any reps on that commission, any commissioner on that commission, looking after the genuine interests of public servants. That has been corrected in this parliament, because recently 2 nominees of the Ghana Public Service Union were nominated by the parliament, and they have been appointed by the president to sit on the Public Service Commission. And that includes the president himself, Mr. Patrick Yard, and Ms. Barbara Went, I think her name is. And so they will now be, what has happened is that they now have their rightful place on the Public Service Commission of this country to represent public servants. And that I believe is a very major and important step and a gain that has been made by the APNU AFC combination in the parliament. Look, if it weren't for our steadfastness in insisting that we must have an efficacious anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism bill to come to this house, one that would involve the ability of the head of the FIU and the FIU itself not only to identify people as people who should be suspect and should be investigated, but there were no charges for 14 years. There were no charges, therefore no prosecutions, and therefore no convictions. And we maintain that it must be efficacious. And so SOCU, the Special Operations Crime Unit, has now been operationalized. It has been operationalized, so they now should have the teeth to ferret out people who are money launderers, who are trafficking in arms, trafficking in drugs, trafficking in persons, etc. And let me tell you, if he hadn't done that, they would not have gone anywhere. And this is a very important aspect, because the next phase in the CFATF regime is implementation. So the government will have to show that they have been implementing the provisions of CFATF, FATF, to correct the deficiencies that have been identified by these 2 bodies. And so we now believe that our steadfastness in this regard has borne fruit. The Judicial Service Commission has been constituted, and the rep from the Bar Association is Justice Perry. I think APNU would like to congratulate Justice Perry, and we believe he brings a lot of experience which would bear on the work of the Judicial Service Commission. He was a Justice of Appeal. He was also, I think, the chairman of the Public Service Appellate Commission, which, they have allowed to fall into desuetude. But we have myriad problems today in the judicial system. Now with a almost fully constituted Judicial Service Commission, we expect them to deal with the question of backlog in both civil and criminal cases. We need the commission to understand that these fast-tracking mechanisms that have been put in place are not being followed by magistrates generally. They are not doing paper committals. You remember this whole question of paper committals? The act was passed in the parliament, and the president and all them signed on saying this would help reduce the backlog of criminal trials. Magistrates don't automatically implement people committals. So you have cases of PIs, for example, with 20, 25 witnesses. And if you don't do a paper committal, it means for you to go through the evidence of 25 witnesses, have them cross-examined. That could take 3 to 4 or 5 years as has been happening. And so we will want to emphasize that we need to have these things revisited. And then, you know, the civil cases, they're now at about 2003, 2004. So if you are struck down on the road, your leg has to be severed as a result, you can't have a hearing for the next 10 years. And so this Judicial Commission will have to look at this question of how do you effectively reduce the backlog in civil cases without concomitantly employing more judges. Devising some method of having people who could sit and expedite these cases rather than the sitting judges who are so burdened, they overburdened with all this work.
Let me insert this here, Mr. William. Bill, I mean, you're pointing out to us some of the effects that the
some of the gains
opposition
that we have made
in
Parliament
Parliament
that we couldn't have made before.
But of course, there are still several pieces of legislation, motions, and so forth, resolutions that have been passed by the House but have not been assented to or enacted by the President. Could one view this as justification for the motion of no confidence by itself?
Obviously, if the President has not assented to bills that have been legitimately and properly passed, even by his political representatives in the Parliament, something has to be wrong. And I think that question too has really characterizes this Parliament in the sense that why accuse the opposition of not bringing more legislation when the legislation that we have, bits of legislation that we have brought, all have been at the hands of the President, refused to be accepted.
Question that comes with that is if in the National Assembly there is also the Attorney General and all of these senior officials of the government, and they would vote in support of some of these resolutions and motions that have been passed, and then subsequently after their vote of support, for example, the four bills, local government amendment bills, and then subsequently you hear then that the President refused to assent to them and so forth. Is it a case that is there another body that is there that is actually running the affairs of Guyana, not necessarily the ministers of government, the Attorney General? Is it that the President is not the President and rather he's probably the Vice President and there's another President that is... Because I mean, all of these questions, I mean, it makes, for the viewing public, it makes nonsense to see in the National Assembly, you have all of these ministers of government, including the Attorney General, who vote in support of amendments and whatever the case be. It becomes an act of Parliament. But then the President refused to assent to it.
But that's not, to me, that's a clear case of no confidence by the President in his representatives in the Parliament.
That's right.
Because if they have faithfully voted after a debate on these bits of legislation, and then they go to him, and he doesn't assent to them.
Is it him that
that's
they're
a show
going
of
to?
no confidence.
Is it him that they're going to?
But it's only he could go to under the provisions of the Constitution. You know, and so, you know, these criticisms are really not constructive criticisms of the way the APNU, AFC work. And let me tell you, bills that are brought, for example, the bills brought by our colleague, Mr. Carl Greenidge. These legislation that come or that would have gone to Parliament would have been a collective exercise, you know. As you well know, Mr. Greenidge did not work on these bills by himself.
That's right.
He would have to consult with the Shadow Attorney General, look at the legal ramification of these things, etc. There are situations where we discuss things that we do the work on, but because we want to have a bipartisan approach in terms of the opposition, we will have a member of the PNU signing on, as well as a member of the AFC. So we all work collectively. It's not the business of Parliament is to pass bills into law, right? That means debate. You have to debate. The majority, if you go to parliament, you pass legislation, and there's no debate. There's no parliament. So debating in parliament must be 9/10 of the work of parliament. Because you just don't go to parliament and just talk out of hand.
That's right.
You have to research, you have to prepare, etc. And these things are recorded for posterity in the Hansard. So being in a position to make presentations at every sitting of parliament or every other sitting of parliament is a feat in itself. And you must always remember overarchingly that all of the members of parliament, except for the government side, are part-time politicians. We are part-time politicians because we have to do our own bit to earn our living, etc., and we have to do every other thing as well as doing this work. Maybe the answer is to have, like in other countries, full-time parliamentarians where they are paid, you're paid, for being a parliamentarian. You have work to do and you are allocated resources and staff, etc. But I think the APNU certainly has curtailed the ability of the government to breach our financial provisions and not be discovered. For example, you see with all those projects, the mega projects, you see they have been exposed, etc. And they have to come and answer questions in the parliament. The question of them spending money on matters and items in the budget that have been disapproved is something that, how long they cannot continue to do that. And efforts are being made to address that.
The question is being asked now with the motion of the no confidence motion before the House. Is there what one would call, usually in term, wiggling room? That the government, noting over the years, have not adhered to the Constitution and the rules of law. Is it that we can see when this motion comes to the floor, it is voted on and passed by the majority in the House, but the president does not, or the government does not resign and call elections in 90 days? Is there wiggling room? And the reason why I'm asking you this is that noting you have years wealth of knowledge in this. You worked with two presidents, Forbes Burnham and Desmond Height, in the legal area during their tenure. Is there any wiggling room that there is a loophole that the motion of no confidence we may not, even if it's passed in the National Assembly, the government will not adhere?
Well, I don't think that they could legally do anything contrary to the decision of the House in terms of a vote of no confidence in them. Because the provision suggests that ipso facto upon the vote, they are deemed to have resigned from office. It doesn't, there's nothing else to be done. They don't have to be, a letter is not required to be sent to them by the president saying they have resigned or anything like that, and they're no longer ministers. The constitutional provision says, upon a vote of no confidence, they shall resign. That they're deemed to have resigned, and within 3 months, they don't leave office, because you don't want to have a vacuum or interregnum in that period for basis of continuity. But they must hold elections within 3 months, and then they are demit office upon the swearing of a new president. Now, the 3 months could be extended, but that could only be done by a 2/3 majority of the House voting. All right, and this nonsense of all the elected members, it's nonsense. It doesn't mean that every member, all 65 members in the parliament, must have been there to participate in the no confidence motion. I think the distinction there really is there are members of parliament who are not elected members, like the technocratic members. They're not elected members of parliament. The parliamentary secretaries, some of them could be appointed. I'm not sure, but I don't think they are also in that category. And so what they mean, elected members, only elected members could take part. And since there's only a majority, it means the majority of elected members present at the time and voting.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so that let's get rid of that one time. And if they don't get a resolution, what they did, I think around 2006, is they sought to amend the provision by an ordinary majority to extend it by an extra month. Because in the architecture of the Constitution, you could only serve a 5-year term. And so a 5-year term runs from the day of the first sitting, 5 years later. So you must have your government in place within that period. And they purport to say that they could do that, extend the time beyond 5 years by going and ask for an amendment in Parliament. But they had the majority at the time. So they were able to pass it with a simple majority. But we believe that they could not have done that because that article had to be read with another article which said that they must be a new government within 5 years after the first sitting of the last one.
All right. For
this particular provision 106 also, they could suggest it is not under Article 164. It doesn't come in the category requiring a 2/3 majority or referendum. All right. But it also is affected in the same manner.
For the for information's sake for members of the public, because the impression is that October 10th comes, the Parliament resumes. I mean, persons actually have the belief that on October 10th, maybe I think October 10th falls on a Sunday, whatever the case, but they expect within 2 days after that the House will meet. There's also the different sittings. There's government business. There's opposition business that takes precedent. For information's sake, for members of the public, could you inform us now? Has a date already been fixed for the first sitting of the House after the recess? And what happens with the government business and opposition for the knowledge of the public?
Thank you, Chris. As far as I know, no date has been fixed for the first sitting of Parliament. The date, the 10th of August, is the date that tells you when the recess has ended. Because
October.
you know you have an annual recess
October.
from 10th of August to the 10th of October.
Yeah.
So the 10th of October signals the end of the recess. It means then that the first sitting of Parliament could come at any time after the 10th.
And so far,
of
no
October.
date has been set.
No date has been set. And then you have government business. Government business takes priority for at least 3 sittings, the first 3 sittings. I think every 4th sitting is supposed to be the members' day, where the members' business
Of the
takes
opposition.
precedent. But you know, we have been, we have done some engineering in this Parliament where we have been able to reorganize on certain occasions the order of business,
Yes.
especially in relation to those local government bills when the government seemed to be appear to have been docking them from coming up. And you recall we utilized certain rules in the standing orders of the Parliament, and we were able to set aside the rules about the order of business, etc., and the order of the items on the order paper, and bring up those bills. In fact, it so surprised the government that when the Speaker called on Minister Gango, who was then local government minister, to present the bill,
Yes.
he was struck down, if you recall. And then the Prime Minister, who was head of government business, was asked. He too was struck down. So that you have those mechanisms, but of course, everything has to depend on how both sides approach the matter. But the government really has the upper hand in calling sittings of Parliament.
Okay.
And another thing we have to be careful to is in relation to if, for example, the first sitting comes, it's government business, and the motion, the confidence motion, is opposition business. It means that they could organize themselves in such a manner that doesn't come up.
That's right.
But we have a counter to that too.
That's right. That's right.
But then we have to see in adjoining sittings you have to ensure that they don't adjourn sit-ins like 2 months and 3 months and all that. So, you know, we have the, I don't want to show our hands at this time.
Right,
so
no. But you see,
we'll have to-
well, essentially it's just to enlighten the public because they would expect that this motion would be debated in October. So it can very well perhaps even go over to November and so forth.
But you must remember, you know, that this is politics.
Yeah.
And you were talking about a no confidence motion, which had attached to it certain conditions that were laid over by the AFC to the government, where they basically had a shopping list of 13 demands.
But on that same note, because that's what I'm coming to now, again to inform the general public, the motion of no confidence is essentially a AFC motion.
Yeah.
It has been signed by the AFC and it also has been seconded by the AFC. So if in any case that government wants to speak to any party pertaining to the motion of no confidence, that body in fact will be the AFC, which will exclude the Partnership for National Unity. So in actual fact is that the APNU would be unaware of any discussion with government, if any, with the AFC, and especially with the 13 points that they've that had laid over. But how does that put? Well, I mean, okay, Majority Leader David Granger have already signaled his intention to vote in support of the motion, but in fact, you are unaware of if there's any discourse between government and the Alliance for Change.
Well, you know, that
So
you're
you're actually
nail on the
going-
head. And the politics is fluid. The president could properly call on the AFC for discussions.
Yeah.
But he could also call on and one can understand that if the PPP and the AFC agree that they will have a majority.
Yeah.
But generally, I don't see the president just discussing with the AFC this matter and exclude the APNU. The only time we could see that is if they believe they could go ahead with the AFC alone and achieve whatever result they want to. But as I said to you, I don't want to anticipate what possible moves the AFC, who as a party has a right to make
Yeah.
in its own deliberate judgment.
Yeah.
But I know as an experienced person in these matters that in having matters of this nature, one has to look out for any eventuality.
That's right. That's right.
And nothing is a fait accompli.
All right.
And so we have to all be alert.
Yeah. All right, viewers. We would be opening the phone lines very early on this program to permit you the opportunity to pose any questions related to the topics that we're covering today. But okay, the number is on the screen, and we're going to open the phone lines in just a few minutes. But Mr. Williams, now final point before we open the phone lines. Note in your opening remarks you touched on it, and that is local government elections. And I just want you to essentially drive the point home, the important factors for local government election. You said earlier that local government election empowers the community. It empowers the people in the community to look after their affairs in their immediate space.
That's the vision
Yeah,
contemplated by the constitutional provisions.
that's right. The push is now on the move to press government to announce a date for the holding of local government elections. We saw the letter that was sent by majority leaders to the president, which expired on Monday the 15th. And of course, now we see these public protests, picketing, demonstration, and public meetings. In fact, on the screen scrolling, there are several public meetings that will be held this afternoon. There were several yesterday and day before yesterday, and it continues until the 11th of October. If there's an announcement for the date for local government elections, what would be the position of the APNU?
Well, to answer that, let me go back.
Yes, sir.
You would recall that every year for the last 19 years, the government would come every year with an amendment to the Local Authorities Election Act, pushing back the holding of elections, postponing it for another year.
Yes.
But they attempted that on the last occasion. But we amended that act and stipulated a date by which the local government elections must be held.
Must be held.
That date was the 1st of August, 2014. That date came and went, and no date was announced, and so the leader of the opposition wrote the president reminding him that that date was identified by the parliament for the holding of the elections. He did not, in fact, the president again had not assented to that bill, which was amended and passed in the House. And so we believe, I think he has going to the United Nations, he had indicated that he'd be out from the 20th to the 30th, but that he was prepared to enter into talks with the leader of the opposition. And as I've said, if the result of such talks lead to a firm date for the holding of local government elections, of course, as I said, that is something that we have been working for before the AFC became a party for the last 13 years, and we would be hard pressed. The benefits of having local government elections and under a local government reform system, cannot be gainsaid. For example, the local government level is a training ground for higher work, in the political system. What happened in the past is that a lot of our politicians started at the local government level, whether in a city council or a
RDC,
an NDC, a neighborhood democratic council. It was a training ground to develop you could identify your politicians from that. But we don't have that now. Because don't forget, this whole system has been degraded over time with a rate of attrition of people who died and who would have gone, and they haven't been replaced, but there have been attempts by the government to dissolve and replace with the only PPP people, with no reference to what the ratio between the PNC and the PPP would have been on such a council. And so therefore, there are so many benefits to be had. Look, individuals could now vote. So if you have a retired engineer in a community, a retired accountant, any professional, they don't have to belong to a political party. They could go and run by themselves. And they therefore, if elected, would be in a position to give their expertise to their community. And that was the type of thinking which attended this whole process of local government reform, to engender a new system of local democracy, where people make decisions for themselves.
That's right.
Now, when they wake up in the morning, they see some people come in with some project, putting down a project in an area in their community without discussing it before, and oftentimes they put it down in a bad area. But if they had consulted with the local people would have been able to direct them to a proper area within which to put it. And so, you had all these problems. They come into your neighborhood, bringing their own workers. When in a lot of those communities, people are unemployed. And so if you're independent, and they have to consult you to come into your, they must consult you to come into the community.
That's right.
And when who would have a problem with engaging the central government in relation to the business of their community? I don't see which neighborhood or which municipality would have such a problem. So the whole idea is to work cohesively. And let me tell you why it is cohesion. There's a provision in an article in the Constitution under Chapter 7 dealing with local democracy that provides for the lower tier, a representative of a lower tier to be elected to sit on a higher tier. So it means that if you're an NDC, the NDC, by whatever means they have, elect you, you will then sit on the RDC.
That's right.
Equally, the municipality in the area, in the region, would equally sit on the municipality. So, in other words, the top will know what the bottom is doing, what the intermediate one is doing.
That's right.
So there's the whole intent of having cohesion in local democracy. That was the whole idea. The government has been afraid to devolve power on these communities, and they operate in a way that they decentralize, and they still exercise total control. Decentralizing means that they move the business of government from an office in town, and they put it in several regions or so. But they still determine what happened in those regions from the center.
All right, and I think on that note, it's also noteworthy just to reiterate the fact that in March of this year, several diplomatic communities, as you rightfully mentioned, the United States Embassy, the British High Commission, the High Commission of Canada,
The European Union.
The European Union. They had several local bodies, the Guyana Bar Association, the Association of Women's Lawyers, the Guyana Trades Union, Congress, just to name a few, who would actually sign on, calling on government to announce a date for local government election. You spoke about persons in communities waking up one morning and seeing something happening in their village. And for example, this is exactly what is happening presently in the village of Plaisance. And in fact, I think this morning at 5 a.m., the residents in Plaisance had some sort of protest action, stopping work that is presently happening in their village. Without their knowledge, they have no idea what is happening there. And that comes back to, again, the authority of the NDC. Even further, this Thursday, the USAID will be hosting a forum on local government elections to educate persons of their right to vote and participate in local government election. This is USAID, and this forum will be held at the Queen's College Auditorium on Thursday, commencing at 5 p.m. sharp. And of course, they extend an invitation to the general public, that is the USAID, on local government elections. We'll go to the phone lines. You pose your questions to Mr. Williams, and we'll continue the discourse.
Chris, we
Sorry.
must intimate and reiterate
Just one
position
person.
of APNU is that we are supporting also the no confidence motion.
Yeah, I think that that
We
is
are
pronounced
running
in law.
on dual tracks.
That's right. That's right.
That's our position.
Go ahead, caller.
Good afternoon. I'm enjoying your program, but I'm watching at the scrolling at the top of the times and places. There is not Kwame and House Street. It's Kwame and Home Street.
All right. Operator, you heard that?
HOLME.
All right. The operator.
Yes, that's correct.
Will
Yes,
make that
it should be
correction. Great.
HOLME.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, my dear. Thanks for coming through. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, in fact, because at all of the public meetings that have started on Friday, we know that all of the speakers there are stressing that point, that once the motion of no confidence comes before the floor of the National Assembly, as signaled by Majority Leader David Granger, the APNU will support 110%. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm listening to your program, and I want to point out something that, as a PNC supporter and an APNU supporter, I do support the local government election, but I want to say that I would love APNU and PNC to support that no confidence motion. You may not understand, but as a man in the street, I'm tired and I'm fed up. And I would like to see it being done. That's all I got to say. This is my contribution. Thank you.
All right, come. Thanks for coming.
Well, I think the caller would not have heard.
Yeah, well, that point.
But
has
he
been
might have been in the
made
process
already.
of
calling through.
Calling through.
That's right.
Yes, we intend to vote for the no confidence motion once it comes up in the parliament.
Very well. Caller? Hello? Yes, please, go ahead.
The people of Guyana need a change, right? And we know with Brigadier Granger, we are going to make it. A lot of things going on right now in Guyana. Killing, thieving, all manner of wickedness going on in this country. With these people, what have they done with the money? What have they done with the money that they get? Look at Guyana condition. Look at the condition of Guyana. The Indians are crying out, bringing in the Chinese and the Indian things and getting sale and all manner of things. The Indian talking about it. So we all need a change, comrade.
Very well,
We
caller.
need a local government election. We need it, we need it, we need it. Because we know that Mr. Granger is going to make it. He's a very educated chap, more than Ramatar and all of them talking a lot of nonsense inside there. It's time for them to come out, man. Time for them to come out.
Very
And
well.
we're doing it.
Very well.
Okay.
All right, thanks for coming through, caller.
Thank you, caller. We agree with your sentiments that you have expressed.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good
Yes.
I'm listening to your program, but I don't have a problem with the no confidence vote.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good. But my position is that the people of this country need to have proper running communities. We need to have the local government elections because these communities, they're getting worse. There's no proper cleaning, no proper running of your communities. There's nothing being done. Elected councillors are being removed and friends and cronies are being placed. They have nobody's interest at heart but their own. And I'm saying I have no problem with the local government election, with the no confidence motion. But I personally, I'm telling you from my heart, I would like to see local government elections run off so that we can have properly run communities, LDCs, municipalities, and all these things, because the state of Georgetown is due to what is happening now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, South Country Caller.
You
All
can
right.
state it better.
Yeah.
I mean, why would we want a situation, Suba-like situation, to be perpetuated in
So,
Guyana?
they call it the civilized in the country. Good afternoon, caller.
Hi, Christopher.
Yes, sir. Just lower the television, please. Yep. Go ahead, please.
We're hearing you, but we're not hearing the people contributing to the program.
All right. Well,
Oh, okay.
we'll have the operator turn that up. Thanks, South Country. All right, operators, just move the audio on the phone, please. Good afternoon. Hello?
Good afternoon.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Looking at your program. I was looking earlier at Channel 11, and Anil Nandalal was lying to the maximum. I don't know where these people are going. With the Amila Pass project at Step Motilal, they lied because the opposition was voting him out. Now, with Surrendra, the opposition is against him also because they knew that he couldn't have done that job. Look with the water pumps and whatever what he has done. And now, Anil Nandalal is lying. He is lying to this nation. He is using NCN. He is using the people's money, the people's station, and he's talking about Glenn Lal. I don't know where these people are going. Thank you for your program.
All right, thanks, South Country Caller.
Well, the program that is running right now?
Yeah, I mean, he's recently resurfaced again, but I mean, is the views expressed by the callers thus far, and I mean, that's what you're getting in the communities, frustration. And I mean, it is blatant what is happening, and there's no cover-up. There's attempt by government to cover up, but the people are not fooled by it.
Yes.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
While I give support to the no confidence motion, I'm still liking the local government election date, because for one thing, we know that it can assist the parliament and let the people understand where and how monies are being spent. Because of the fact that we do not have proper local government authorities in place at this moment, monies are being spent willy-nilly and anyhow. And money is not voted, money is voted, and it's the taxpayers' monies that are going down the drain for things that they are not having a say in. And we know that this government, when they came in the power 2 years after, had spoken the word that when money is allocated to constituents, wherever it is, and if that money is not, has to be handed back to the coffers, because you know the monies, when money are not spent, used to come back to the coffers. Anybody who bring back money to the coffers should be locked up. And you know that this is what is happening with the monies, and every year you vote in more and more money for the same project and the same thing that is being done. So the local government elections, I think, will be able to stop that and bring things under control so people can know what is happening in the area. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's my take on it. I
think
don't
that's
know
a good
how
point.
you look at it.
Thanks, South
It's
Country.
the
That's a
same
very
money
good
for
point
the
being
people.
made by the caller. He's alluding to the track record of this government with dealing with the local government organs, especially those that they don't control.
Yeah, that's right.
And they use that as a weapon against the RDCs that they don't control, and the NDCs that they don't control, and the municipalities that they don't control, by withholding money for most of the year. And then when November, December comes around, they then purport to tell these councils, look, here's your allocation.
Yes.
Now, you tell me how any such council would be able to spend those monies within a couple of days or
Short
weeks
period.
that would have been left for the year. And so, as the caller said, they were required to then return
Yeah.
the monies. And what the government would then do was say, look, these councils are not efficient. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Look, we give them money,
That's right.
but they haven't done anything.
That's
But
right.
they don't tell the people they give the councils the money
Close to
at the
due
11th
date.
hour.
That's right. All right, let's go back to the phone line. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you? Good afternoon, Mr. Basu. How are you?
Good afternoon, I'm good.
Mr. Basu, I have two points for you. Now, we are going in every time to election campaign and this and that, right? Now, look at I'm speaking about economy. Now, the economy is going very vast down. There's no business in this country if you look at it, if you're traveling around the world. Now, we are talking about bus fare raising. Now, if the government, we are subsidizing GPL $6 billion, not 6,000 or 6 million, $6 billion. Now, we are subsidizing the guy with money. Why we have to pay so much light bill? If we are paying a very cheap rate of light bill and water in this country, I don't think the bus fare needs to go up because something has to be dropped in this country. Economy is very bad. Now, everything is very expensive in this country, from light bill right down to the drain water where you get it. And it's very bad because if you travel around the country, you go to Suriname, current is very cheap. I know they're doing it at the hydro system, it's very cheap. It's still high, but it's very cheap, more cheaper, much cheaper in Guyana. And we subsidizing these companies are very money. And if they need to drop this rate, this bus fare don't need to go up because there were a lot of people say, look, okay, first they're jumping at the light bill is high. This is high. But if something is very low in this country, the busman will now raise the fare. The economy will be a fair way. But it's not like that's happening. The next thing, look at the invites of bringing in goods and services to Ghana, if you're importing goods. Duty from cooking oil, bringing in this country is 40%. I think that is totally relevant to poor people to buy for duty for cooking oil. It's on food economy. That's my contribution to you guys.
Thanks for coming to call. All right, let me just continue to take the calls and then we'll have Mr. Williams do wrap up. We'll take 2 more callers and then we'll have wrap up sentiments expressed on it.
But the caller was addressing cost of living.
Yeah.
And, the government, and I think they also compound this problem because of the low salaries that they're paying to the workers.
That's right.
They pay workers on starvation wages. They've been doing that for years. With the elections afoot, I suspect they might want to move from the normal 5% and try to feel they could inveigle the voter.
That's right.
And the worker.
That's right.
By giving them 8% or 10%. But the point is, this government has been recalcitrant. They're not having any talks with the Ghana Public Service Union, for example, about the workers' wages.
They ain't talking to nobody.
And they met last week and told the PSU that they couldn't discuss any question of wages and salaries or anything in connection with workers' conditions of work. And so what is very clear is that they have continued to breach this collective bargaining agreements that they have with the union. And they have no intention, the union is saying, look, we want a living wage. That, according to the union, should be around $136,000 in terms of the minimum wage. But they also are negotiating for a multi-year agreement. They want to move towards, they must have a wages policy. This government has no wages policy, you see? And they continue to degrade the lives of workers and the people in this country. So everything goes up. You're subsidizing every year sugar, you're subsidizing GPL, and the light bill is still high, as everybody knows that. So something has to give. Something has to give.
Let me quickly pull in the last 2 callers and then we'll close. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I admire your works, and as a matter of fact, I do adore the first this local government election thing, and I appreciate the no confident motion. But I want to ask, what going on to these thieves and these robbers who are robbing everybody and nobody ain't doing them nothing, like the people them in high position? Cause they're only locking up them little small men and they're left in these big thieves side. Good day.
Thanks for coming, caller. All right, that will be the final caller. Operators, our cameras out of focus. Mr. Williams, your wrap-up sentiments, please.
Yeah, well, the last caller talks about what is happening now. The law obviously will take its course under any APNU government. We wouldn't countenance that type of situation with people helping themselves to the contents of the treasury of Guyana.
That's right.
And pilfering monies from the state, etc. And these corrupt transactions that you hear that are going on. So the call could rest assured that the law will take its course on any APNU government.
Excellent. All right, that will be it for us today on Nation Watch Today. Just a quick reminder, you see the scroll on the screen. This is a continuation of the public meetings that have started by the Partnership for National Unity. These meetings would have started last Friday and it runs until October the 11th. This is in a continuation push to have the government announce a date for the holding of local government elections. Again, the USAID on Thursday of this week will be hosting a forum at the Queen's College Auditorium commencing from 5 p.m. And that forum by USAID is to educate the Guyanese people about the importance of local government elections and the role that they ought to play. Nation Watch want to encourage you, once you have free time, to ensure that you participate in that forum, which is being held by USAID. And this is on Thursday of this week, 5 p.m. at the Queen's College Auditorium, a forum on local government election and why local government election is important to you. We invite you out to the public meetings this afternoon in the various regions. And of course, we invite you to go to the Youths for David Granger Facebook page, where you will be able to get up to date in terms of everything that is happening as relates to the local government and other preparation for elections. Until next time, my name is Christopher Jones. Oh, before I forget, there's also a radio link. APNU now has its internet radio. It's up and running and have been up and running for the past month now. And of course, all you need to do is go on the APNU Facebook page, and the link to that radio site is there. And of course, we encourage you to share that radio link with your family and friends abroad in the various countries. And of course, you could listen to the radio on your smartphones and of course on your computer. That is APNU radio station on the World Wide Web. Until next time, my name is Christopher Jones, thanking you for joining us on today's program of Nation Watch Today. Until next time, goodbye for now.
We need someone to take us to the stars, lead us to a place nice and warm, yeah. Who's gonna clean up all this mess? 19 years of endless stress.
Granger, take over this government.
You can hear it east, north, south, and west. People calling for the best.
Granger, we want you as president.
Mr. Granger is the man to lead this nation, to bring a better future for this generation, for build better schools, better education, for bring back the reputation. Now we want a government that is trustworthy, provide employment and maintain security. Whether you're black, Indian, American, Chinese, a good life.